Yeah, let's go ahead and start. It's all meeting where it's well, Dave, you're first up. It's Stacy.
She acted like she was.
Yeah.
There's Pam.
Yep.
We just started, we're on visitor comments, folks, okay?
Get my reader glasses.
Oh my gosh.
Well, first of all, this is a real treat. And I gotta tell you, I've had the best morning. I meet with a group every Monday through Friday at Redco from 6 to 7 in the morning. And then I usually I have diabetes, and so I get a pure egg omelet at the Boardwalk Cafe. But you connect with people everywhere. And in fact, I'm gonna throw out an idea before we get into this, which is because I've been thinking about restaurants and new restaurants, particularly in Western Groves. The question is, what's your favorite or your go-to comfort food? For example, mine has always been, since I was a kid, tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwich. That's mine. Still is. And I turned 70 in April. I'm just sure that anybody, just go-to comfort food.
I love mashed potatoes.
I gotta say bacon.
And bacon. Okay.
Like lasagna.
Yeah, the one. I actually really like meatloaf. My wife doesn't, so I don't eat it very much, but it's good comfort food for me.
Ours go well together.
Yeah.
Like so not to get off on tangent, but what if you had a new restaurant called the Comfort Kitchen and it was custom comfort foods and based on market research, so you find out what the top ones are, or you custom make it if you can, but it's all based on foods that just make you happy, make you feel good inside. Done. Moving on.
We have an idea, man.
No. My name's Dave Bach. I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. I went to SMU College. I got my MBA at KU. Moved to St. Louis in 77. Sorry about the KU then. Yeah, they've lost 3 straight due to this. But I worked 16 years in brand management marketing at the Ralston Purina Company. And then when I turned 40 in 1993, I had a midlife correction. I left Ralston and I started my own strategic marketing consulting business. And I worked by myself for 12 years. And then I linked up with Tony Bevilacqua, who was another Western Groves resident and Ralston Purina alumni. And we worked together for 12 years. Like I said, I turned 70 in April. I do not like the word retired. I simply think that I have evolved to a higher level of creativity and consciousness. I still work and create every day. I just don't do it for money. And I love Webster Groves. We've lived here for 23 years at 124 South Elm, so just down the street. And I got to tell you, I love the businesses. I don't think you guys did enough credit, quite honestly. I love the business community in Webster Groves. The variety, the restaurants, the arts. I mean, I think it's great. And it's interesting, Officer Schul, that one of my favorite experiences, and I do it pretty much every week, because I live close to the old Webster Business District. I'll start down by Paisley, where Stacy lives. And I'll just walk down Lockwood and go into different businesses to connect with the owners, like Stanley, the McCall Burr Art Gallery at Scott, Hair Salon, Megan and Brian at McLean Realty, Ron Clip, Mark Kiesel, and one of my biggest things that I just want to share is that I think it's good that you guys have great products and services. But I think ultimately, to me, it's all about people. And the more that this community can connect, not just with your stores, but with the people who run them. It's kind of like a Cheers bar. It's like where everybody knows your name. And I gotta tell you, when I walk into a store and go, hey, Dave, Boardwalk Cafe. I mean, I know all of the people there. And that makes it friendly. It makes it a community. It makes it human. Beyond the great food or great products. And so I wanted to share that because I think you have great products and services. Because my background is marketing, I think your real challenge is marketing and branding. I think you need to better sell yourselves in the 3 business districts as one. But I don't think you have a product problem. I think you have a marketing, branding challenge and opportunity. And that's my overall thing. And the other thing about me that you need to know is that I entered in April. Both my parents and my grandparents all died when they were 80. So I figure I have 10 years left. And I'm a big believer. I have some fundamental business beliefs. But one of them is carpe diem, which is you got to seize the day. You can't wait. I don't have time, and I have to move on stuff. And because I could go any day. And so I believe in carpe diem. I just think you got to move. And I think this community, but we've talked about it, city council, if I had one complaint is that they're really great people, but they just tend to move too slow for me. And so that's just another headline idea, but I have some. How much time do I have? I could spend 2 hours.
Well, not 2 hours, Dave.
It's 3 minutes. You're under visitor comments, if you really want to know the answer.
Okay, okay, then what I'll do, I'll pass. Bud said, should I touch this up? This is maybe self-explanatory. But it's some strategic thoughts and then some early seed ideas. And to me, it's just taking advantage of this city's different assets and equities and identities from other commissions here, like the Arts Commission, Sustainability Commission. I don't know if you guys ever do anything with them, but there's synergy there and opportunities. Our schools, our churches, et cetera, et cetera. And your 3 business districts, which I got to tell you, it drives me nuts when I hear that they all operate somewhat independently and separately. Because I was watching the movie 1776, they talk about the triangle trade, Barbados, Boston, and Charleston. And I can get Crossroads, Old Orchard, Old Webster. It's a triangle trade. And I think you could have runs, walks, progressive things where you unify the 3 districts together under one thing. And I think, again, if you branded the whole community as one thing, I think it would help. And I'm a big believer in marketing and brand. So anyway, you pass these around. They're just self-explanatory. If you have any questions, Fran, I'm sorry if it took more than 3 minutes, but it's like, you want to call me, talk to me, but I will offer this, is that in my consulting business, we did a lot of new product innovation with it. And Tony and I worked with a lot of great companies, learned a lot from great people, but we often led ideation sessions. And it's like, I don't know if you guys have ever really had an ideation session. I mean, a true ideation session that maybe lasts less than an hour, 3 hours, 4 hours, all day. We used to do them all day. And you can generate a lot of different ideas in wherever you want to focus, whether it's marketing, branding, new product ideas, new service, new business ideas. But I think this place has so much potential. I just, and it's like, I think you're doing such a great job right now, but I think you have unlimited potential to grow. And you know, Bud knows. City council for years has said their top two objectives. The first one is ensure financial security of the city, that's number one. Number two is foster a strong business community. That's their number two objective of the city. And so it's like, I think the city will get, I mean, I think it's like the sky's the limit. I think you just gotta go for it and ask for it, you know, so.
For those of you that didn't know, Dave's real name, his first name, real name is Webster, and his last name is Groves. So I just call him Mr. Webster.
No, he's Mr. Webster. He's what, Mr. One Webster. But see what when Bud ran with Matt Armstrong? See, I love that their campaign, One Webster. They were at-large candidates. They were, this is one Webster. It's not three Websters. It's not 5 different neighborhoods. It's Horn Webster. We are one Webster. And I love that. You're one business community. Not, you know, yeah, you have 3 different locations. But you're one community. And community, I think as I said in an email to Bud, the word community is a combination of 2 words, commune plus unity, which literally means to share together as one. I think that's the key to community. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
For those
Thank
three,
you for having me.
just real quick, yeah, for those on Zoom, we'll get that Dave's handout scanned in and sent to you all, so you'll have it.
No, keep up the great work. I just.
I think I may have that.
Hey, Pam, how are you?
Dave, good to see you. Thanks for your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
All quite good.
No, I admire you guys.
You'll join us soon, I.
All right, Mike. All right, cool. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, let's keep this. Let's go through Dave's thoughts. Maybe if we can. Next meeting, maybe.
okay, yeah.
No, I was gonna say next meeting.
Yeah,
To keep it, that way we can go through it. So, last month's minutes, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we got a second? All right, all in favor? All right, good deal. So, new commission members.
Julie, welcome. So since your meeting in November, the council did fill one appointment and there's one more vacancy, but I'll let Julie introduce herself and then we can all introduce ourselves to Julie, hopefully. So
Sure. My name's Julia Lenig. I own Descendant on Big Bend. It's a women's boutique. We sell like minimalist style clothing and accessories. Been here about 3 years, coming up on our anniversary, and yeah, I'm just ready to kind of start taking my role in the community to the next level now that I've kind of gotten my footing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I have 2 kids. I technically live in Glendale. I don't know if it makes me like a traitor. But
it's not gonna quit.
breaker.
That's an annex.
Good deal. Well, let's go around the table and introduce yourselves. Let's say around the table, but also our friends on Zoom. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm Stephanie Hughes. I'm the director of events for the Novel Labor, so not too far.
Yeah. And I'm Fran Sudicom. I'm the one sending you all the emails.
Thank you.
Officer Rasul.
I'm Officer Rasul and I deal with traffic, parking and anything of the business.
Eric Peterson, I'm the staff liaison assistant city manager here at the city.
Tim Delante, owner of Louis Attic. I've lived here my entire life, so. I went to American Peace, so a lot of Glendale people, so you're all right.
I'm Bud Belomo. I'm retired actually, so. It's one of my sides.
Represents the chamber.
There we go. CC Bartels and I'm a contemporary of Dave Bucks and marketing as well.
And I'm Mike Pincus, it's all commercial insurance, Federated Insurance. So, and then Pam, you want to go ahead? I know you're on mute, but you're showing up in the top corner for us.
Hi, I'm Pam Bliss, council liaison for the BDC, and I'm a business owner as well.
All right, Eric, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, Eric Bowering. This is my 3rd meeting, so new member. I work for Sherwin-Williams, the paint company.
And
All set. Tammy, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm Tammy Bame and I own May Pop Coffee and Garden Shop. I think this is my second year.
Thanks, Tammy. All right, so old business. Welcome to it. Work in Webster Groves updates.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. WorkinWebsterGroves.com continues on. So as I figured over Christmas, we saw a slight downturn. I think we got 4 new ads come in from businesses. We did launch, it should be launching this week, but the city had committed into a starting $7,500 digital ad package for advertising WorkinWebsterGroves.com, which of course was part of the intention. We needed to get something going because we didn't want to wait, for another month of design and such. So those you'll start to see popping up in your digital spheres and such. And also Jenny Starkey is running around another set of advertising or notices to businesses for the postings. Your business license renewals, which should be coming out soon, also will have a stuffer for businesses to encourage them to use WorkinWebsterGroves.com. So those, that's our update. We were at, I think there was 38 total postings of jobs submitted since we began, which for the volume of folks that have used it, I'm still very happy with. We also will have Jenny is putting the finishing touches on the user survey, namely for businesses, right? How are they feeling? What kind of reaction have they gotten? And also, judge feedback and such like that. So that $7,500 is obligated out of the $100,000 business development fund, as well as I'm just giving you, I jumped in your sea a little bit, as well as the money for the business bingo. So,
Yep.
So
Okay.
happy to answer any questions if anyone has them.
Have you seen it uptick a little bit more now that we're kind of through the holidays or not yet?
Nope. No, I would imagine Q1 hiring is probably going to be much slower than, and others. I mean, we certainly
Sure.
see, so you all know when we see sales tax receipts, we see, October, November, December, right, rising. And then surprisingly, spring is better than the hard summer, the full summer months here. So that, April, May, we start to see sales tax receipts, rising back up and sort of a trend of when we really see retail at least activity and restaurant sales tax. So
Cool. Anybody else have any questions on it or anything else to talk about before we move on from Working Webster Groves?
The listings go for a month. And they're.
yeah, so we've kept some up and there folks have asked just quick, like Morgan Ford has said, just please keep it up, right?
Okay.
We ask, so generally it's been 2 weeks, but we've kept them up a month just simply to have some volume there.
Yeah.
So people have a posting if they do come to the site.
Yeah.
So. But we do every other week, we circulate back to those who have posted, still active. Do you want us to take it down? Things like that. So.
Yeah. Okay. The promoted Webster business kind of goes into a little bit about some of the stuff that they've brought in as far as some ideas for sure. Right.
So a couple updates, Mr. Chair. We certainly have talked about the QR code and the mapping idea. We continue work on that to develop a map of some kind that's not, again, the concern we have, and I don't want to call it a concern. I don't want to put it that way. Just having a map open up on a phone, that's a bunch of red dots, right? With all the different businesses, right? And so trying to make it more dynamic. That is not a skill that we have in a great way in-house, right? So we've reached out to a couple different mapping consultants to get some quotes on, what kind of a dynamic mapping system would cost. Something not that we can update. So as businesses come on and off, the grid, I'll use that term here in Webster, we can update, but that they can set up, right? And get sort of that infrastructure together. So I'm hopeful next month, we'll have those costs and such. With business license renewal, this is an opportune time, right? Because it lets us sort of purge out close. There's a lot of people that never report their closures to the city, which is, it's not a huge deal. It's technically supposed to be done, but if, they stay on our lists for many years sometimes because they're not reported. So,
Yeah.
So that was in that piece. I know Stacy Swidurska, who had the original idea, was possibly going to be here today. I don't see her.
She told me she was gonna be here.
Right, so I figured we might have some comments from her. She's on the old Webster district, but we'll obviously be talking about this next month again. So
Yeah, this should make conservation talk this month. Some.
Okay, don't move on yet.
No.
So I'm all about what Dave Buck says, and I came on this committee, just like Dave Buck would, if he was sitting there, behave the same way. That there needs to be an overarching thing. Two things that I have observed. One is this committee may or may not have the stomach for it, specifically in the event category. Secondly, I don't know if we have the budget for it.
I think the budget's a
That's a-
holdback. I
that's
mean,
a
we have some money
big deal.
now that we're gonna talk about in C, right? But
Because, you know, as Eric just mentioned, you had to carve out a little bit for a really simple program. Business bingo. And that's what brought up the other matter too, like, did we really want to get into this kind of work?
mm,
But you know, this list is full of common sense ideas that are all wonderful to do. And some of them actually are being done, like I saw one down here, well, dance parties are already the thing. We actually have these got a walkabout of art, but we already have a plein air painting thing that is exactly like Follow Your Heart. But anyway, these are all good practical ideas that could be done. But who's gonna do them and where's the budget gonna come from? So I suggest we either talk about that now or put that on the agenda, because that's pretty strategic. You
mhm.
know, we have to either decide we're into this game or we're not into this game, and why aren't we into this game? And if we are, how are we gonna make it happen?
So just appreciate the comments, some background for you all on budget. So this group, I believe, was at 19. Previous administration worked and with this group about marketing. There's about $30,000 total, some of it general fund, meaning cities funds, and some subsidized by the 3 districts that essentially create the holiday marketing package of the city. So you see those Winter Wonderland and Webster type ads, you both on the TV exposures and things like that. That is part of, that came out of this group. It sits in the general budget, right? Because it's a program that the city runs. But you're absolutely right. The other than this pot of money one time, the federal money that's there for business development initiatives, there is not a dedicated budget into BDC or for those purposes. And there's also, you know, the closest thing you have to an economic developer right now is me and Mara, you know, who's, you know, certainly different areas. But you know, that's mostly on tax incentives for development if it's going to happen. So we don't have, other than, you know, Jenny Starkey's communication abilities, we don't have a dedicated marketing plan for the entire area in terms of business attraction and promotion and such like that.
That's even a different, I'm hearing you say someone in real estate when you just described all of that.
So you're right, yes. And so this is the difference between a business development, meaning business promotion and strengthening the current stock of business, the marketing of that versus many other facets and functions. Cities historically have not done cities writ large, right? Certainly regions can be different, have not done near as much on the marketing of businesses as they have done on the, how do you strengthen the infrastructure, the retail space, meaning, you know, streetscapes, walkabilities, things like that. Doesn't mean we can't be on the marketing side. It's just, it's a different discipline, right? When you hire economic developers, they're looking at that. How do you increase commercial real estate availability, you know, for businesses to be in? What do we do to attract and create retail destinations, such like that? So certainly can be on the agenda, so we can continue talking. And I know Tammy will have something to say about it because we've talked about it. So
Tammy, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to say that there actually have been some really successful market or event things that have gone on, and Descendant was actually a part of the winter market. On that same day, we were having a market, and so there was really great cross promotion and participation from the public. And we even have another one coming up, which is all in the mall. And it was very, very exciting to see. I'm not sure if Stacy was communicating a lot on it. I'm not sure if it came from her. But it's, you know, it's got people from all different corners of Webster, all different retailers that are participating. So we are making some inroads where maybe we don't want the BDC to put these things together, but to be able to somehow support the Shop Webster, Shop Local kind of initiative would, you know, help amplify it.
Yeah, I
And maybe-
agree with that. Sorry, Tammy, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, only because it's bringing so many different people into Webster, and a lot of these, say, for example, the winter market that the Procure, the Women's Creative did, they helped to raise up a lot of women's kind of incubator business ideas and get them, the next level to become a brick and mortar. So, it's bringing in a lot of people that are at the beginning stages of entrepreneurship that could eventually become brick and mortar businesses in our city.
Yeah, go
Say
ahead.
something. At that event is actually where Tammy convinced me to get a seat here. And I think that is just such a example of what it's really gonna take. Is like, I feel like not us looking to city council or some budget or whatever, it's gonna be the business owners themselves. We really need to connect and be just like doing it. It has to come from us and to like lift up, so I don't know if there's a good way that we can all talk together, like if there's like a Facebook group or like an email list or something that we could just like the business owners to join, because it's like we all kind of operate as these like islands and we need to rally,
So the answer is yes, there is a Facebook group, which Fran, I think, created long ago for, sort of, I don't want to say on behalf of the city, but it's not a city product, right? It's not a city Facebook group, but it's there. It's for business owners, and we certainly can do an email listserv back and forth, and that's fine. I would say that what Tammy just mentioned all happened, and it is, as you're right, it's an organic movement. The one, All in the Mall, I believe it's called.
All in the hall.
All in the hall,
It's
excuse
at
me,
the
at the
hall
hall.
at
Sorry.
Alabama.
Yeah, Stacy Swiderska created, I mean, that's not the city.
She organized the
right?
whole thing.
exactly.
Now,
I helped her, but she organized. it.
Totally.
so to that point, and what I point out, and I appreciate your comments, because that's spot on from our perspective at the city. We were then asked, well, can we send things out to the business owners, right? And so, Stacy wants to reach retail. And immediately I got some quasi food service / retail places like, why wasn't I invited, right? And why did
yeah.
the city exclude me? And so I appreciate that. I mean, this has been a conversation from my perspective at the city, same with many events, right? That just somehow sort of became the cities over time, like, that the community really needs to take on these events, right? I mean, the city isn't a creative agency, right? That's doing things. So, but I'm not saying we're trying to get rid of events, but it's, how do we best do them and those types of things? And so easy to look at an email listserv and such like that. Generally, the city hall emails from City Hall, we have tried not to over spam folks with different opportunities because people unsubscribe and then we lose the ability to communicate the important things that we do need to communicate and try to keep city sort of in the government sphere. So,
Now that you say that, I do remember the Facebook group.
Yeah.
And I think I'm on it.
yeah. It's all good. So,
But
I wasn't sure to say anything.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful that there's a new group rising up, because when I came in at the same time, probably Tammy did, I was hearing things about the different business district groups. Leadership was sort of like always the same guy or girl because nobody else wanted to ever do it and nobody ever came to their meetings.
Yeah.
So if you guys are now motivated and more organic and something's done, we definitely want to support what you're doing.
Or just like, we should, I don't know, get in the ears of other business owners. We should do it. I know you guys are obviously doing that and trying. And I feel like you did, when I met you through Business Bingo, I was like, this is
There's something,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know, it goes both ways.
Well, I
and-
think you're talking about synergism, which is
Right.
what my motivation was. And as long as you and Tammy and Stacy, maybe you're the core, because you guys represent 3 different areas, but
I'm just thinking like, how can I get in the ears of other crossroads business districts who I see every day, being like, you should really come do this. Like, I
or
don't
yeah,
know.
have a coffee in your shop for them or something.
Yeah.
And we're thrilled you're here because she has event experience, and
what I heard is that you get to run the events. That's what I.
His suite of ideas was like, I have all the things to do a bingo night in our downstairs space.
There you go.
So, yeah.
So pick her
No, I
brain.
can-
She's a great resource for this committee.
Good deal. Yeah, I would say, let's keep that, or I guess, get into that, put it on the agenda next, that's the next week almost, or maybe next week, next month.
Well, that'd be great,
Embrace
but
some
I would
ideas.
like to
Yeah.
charge Julia and Tammy between now and then to formulate their own concept of what that might look like or
Yeah.
behave like or whatever, so we can maybe encourage you.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. Well, on that note, we do have some money, right? So that's what we're gonna talk about next. We're
So,
gonna-
and you have about $87,000, excuse me, no. Yes, 87,000. That is still remaining in the, not committed yet. We haven't spent obviously the digital ad package and such, but it's committed that way. So, now we are approaching the end of the fiscal year at the end of June. Next month, we're gonna talk, the city started its conversations about the next budget. So to be clear how this works, you know, the $100,000, whatever's left falls back into the fund balance. It just doesn't roll over year to year. The council can take an affirmative action to roll it over and keep the fund in place next year, you know, same amount of money, but ARP funds, these are the federal monies that came in under the American Rescue Plan, do need to be expended by 2026. And so, and we have to report by the end of calendar year 24, their use, and then anything not used can't just live and be repurposed and such. So we need to, you know, the point being, where I'm getting at is, if we're gonna roll the fund over, that's fine. We're gonna need to start deciding on some of those elements of spending and make sure that the money gets out the door.
So from a budget standpoint, for our funds, we should figure out how we want to spend it next month so that we can present that. to
So
council.
yeah, I mean, they're certainly looking for recommendations. The council can, the council and the city manager can decide, much like the digital package, right? It fits with what we'd all talked about, but they can say, we're gonna spend the money, right? And just move on it. But I think they're looking for you for recommendations. Is there more? Do we want to put more into advertising, workingwebstergroves.com? Do we want, you know, development of this QR code and product? Do we, are we looking, again, the conversation about the position, which I'll put on the agenda for next month as well, especially in light of budget. Is that something you're looking at in that area? And then, you know, because council, I'm sure will have some thoughts about one-time money funding a position. So we generally don't do that around here, but that's a council decision, not my decision.
What's
So,
that mean, funding a position?
so generally, I mean, the ARP money is one time, right? So come, you know, the 2026, that money's gone. And the expectation when you add a position is, of course, you're going to keep the position. It's much like having a grant funded position. The expectation becomes that you're going to continue on funding this person, and then it becomes a general fund cost.
Oh, you're talking about an employee.
Yes,
Okay.
so, well, there was a position request in,
Right,
right, and so,
right.
we don't want to ignore that, but if we're going to do something, hash it out and try to affect what is the plan, so.
Sure, in my industry, positioning has more to do with the previous subject about how we position
Yeah,
the city
Yes.
and
sorry.
Dave's comment about getting into an ideation.
Now there is, and I don't want to steal Councilmember Bliss's, I know she's got her hand up and I'm gonna get there. The city is going through strategic planning right now. Bud has been involved with some of this outside of his duties here. But there is a strategic goal around economic development, which would include the business development world. And so I think the council is going to be primed to have some conversations with staff and also with you all about, you know, if that's a strategic goal, what are the tactical goals to do? Are we looking at infrastructure developments? Is this, you know, marketing positioning type plan, things like that? And there are other uses that may not have come off this table yet that may present themselves in that conversation. So I'll turn to Councilmember Bliss.
Yep,
Okay on that?
I just wanted to remind you all that you had the survey and that Work in Webster Groves kind of came out of that survey, and that might be, don't forget that that's a good place to start or just revisit when you're thinking about upcoming initiatives or tactics.
It's a good idea. Tammy, is your hand up for this? Did you have something to say? I wasn't sure if it was still up for me.
Actually, yeah, I would
Yeah,
like to
go ahead.
say something. I think that the survey that we did, was that pre-COVID or just
You're
right in the middle? Yeah. So I think because business owners and I think the whole world has had to rethink what they want their future, you know, to look like. It might be good to consider doing a new survey or maybe a new roundtable or like a chance or something for all the business owners to meet. Kind of like Julie was saying earlier, I think meeting in person could actually be quite dynamic. We've talked about different ways that might happen. But also I have a question. I feel like I haven't seen Jenny Starkey since September. Does she have conflicts with this meeting time, or is because she was part of the role of the business coordinator with the BDC? Wasn't that going to be a role that she was part of?
Are you talking about the position that you all recommended to be created?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the council has taken no action to authorize that position. So Jenny Starkey's role, she's not a member of the commission anymore. She was. She came to employment at the city. She's not the liaison, so she doesn't attend. She certainly is kept abreast, like with work in Webster Groves, you know, she is creating that digital ad package and such. But in terms of the conversations that we have, it's my job, as with all the commissions, the staff liaison, to communicate needs and desires for any kind of marketing or work for her and from her. So she may watch the recording, and I'm sure, I know she did it after the last meeting because we had some conversations about it, but she doesn't attend the meeting per se.
You
Okay.
did, sorry, this is kind of related but unrelated, I guess, a little bit, but as far as with maybe doing another survey, but you said Jenny's gonna do a survey coming up here, right? Then you said she has a survey coming out for work in Webster?
So that was a survey to the users. So the businesses, you know, what's your, you know, do you want enhancements? Is there certain things you may want as a business to?
But only to the people that are active.
Exactly,
users,
right.
not
It's
Webster,
just a
whole business community.
exactly.
Okay, dang, I was
Yeah.
hoping it was the whole community.
And I don't.
Figure we could just tack a few more questions on there.
Certainly, so it cuts all these ways. You all know this, right? I mean, this is probably, I agree completely with Tammy. Re-engagement is always good, right? And how do we do that? And there may be, you know, it's probably, you're gonna get some folks at an in-person event of some type. Doesn't even have to be a roundtable with all presentations and blah, blah, blah. You know, it may just be a good networking event with
Like a happy hour.
a happy hour, you know, type of thing. Exactly. So, but you're also not gonna get some folks that come there, right? And there's a segment of the business community that's just not going to engage with those efforts. And we may want to survey as well, a resurvey, to go out, just to multi-layer those efforts. The business roundtable I thought was just great for our first time out. Tim was there, you know, I mean, it was 30 people, but it was still people that weren't always just at every business district meeting. But I'll tell you, it's the people that we know and we hear from in the community about business issues, right? And there's segments of the business community that just, you know, they don't look to City Hall for any of the kind of leadership and tough conversation that you're having here. Tim, I don't know if you disagree or.
No, I completely agree. I thought it was fantastic. So.
Councilwoman Bliss, did you have something else too? I wasn't
Just
sure.
quickly to remind of the dates, I believe the business roundtable was early in 22 or maybe late 21.
It's November of 21.
Yeah, and then, but it was just last summer, May, June, that we reviewed the results from this last survey. So I agree with Eric and Tammy that it would be good to touch base, but probably not do a full-blown survey, but just a follow-up or a tack on.
Didn't we discuss doing the roundtable every 2 years?
I thought we did talk about doing it more frequently. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how I missed it.
Well, this is good. See, we can certainly start to plan that and.
It was on the Facebook. It was on Facebook.
The benefit of this is it raises up new people, like Dave Buck came here, but he maybe didn't even know we did a business bingo, right? And he's got all these big ideas and you didn't know that we did a roundtable. So there's always going to be new people that are in new positions of interest and having regular conversation. You know, suddenly draws somebody out that you didn't even know was missing from the conversation.
Sure. Yeah, new business owners or people that couldn't make
Yeah,
it before, and
exactly.
then obviously
Or get their
different.
heads toward a bigger initiative for their part of the city, like you introduced yourself saying.
Well, and a lot of the challenges with that I feel like a lot of the business owners had during the roundtable were COVID related because it was. so
That's true.
fresh,
That was an
and
emphasis we put on
It
it.
was, yeah. I think it'd be nice to do another one. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I would encourage, we'll put it on the next meeting. We did a lot of it as staff, which is fine. We're gonna be there to help and such, but if there's, you know, next meeting, think about a couple people to help lead that conversation of what it is, you know, if it's a plenary session like we had, or more happy hour networking, all that kind of stuff. And then also location, we used Webster University. It worked well, but you know, if we we want a more happy hour feel and such, we could easily do the hall, we could find rooms, maybe it's Malvern neighbor, I mean, maybe it's many, maybe it's, not just a centralized, but maybe it's a couple, across the width and breadth. And I always, Bud is tired of hearing me say this, but I always bring up, don't forget about Watson, right? I mean, a whole commercial corridor and tax corridor that's, not in, it's in Webster Groves, but not often thought of as the Webster Groves part of the business community.
So I would like to ask specifically, what is the role of the Chamber of Commerce? And why don't we parlay with them?
What I'm here for is to really relay information back and forth. And I do that, of course. But yeah, ours is to foster a good membership, stay in contact, have events for the community, and our commerce, of course, it's not just Webster, it's also Rock Hill and Shrewsbury. So we have 3 communities that we're involved in. Hearts of the Community, that's one of the things that we're very involved in, set that up every year. There are other events that we have to try to keep the community together. But there's really not anything in thinking about this $87,000. It sounds like a lot of money, but it's not really. Yeah, but once when I was still on the council, we had a conversation in a work session about looking for a firm that could take an inventory of all our empty spaces and go out and find people to come to Webster Grove for that purpose. And I think that's what turned, we got the idea from Maplewood. That's what turned Maplewood around 10 years ago. They had a person that did that, ended up being the city manager, I think afterwards, but she did that as a business. And it was very successful as we did. So we're limited, we're locked in, but what can we take advantage of? So hiring a consulting firm that could set up a process, not just do it the first time, but set up a process so that we can continue doing that later on. And 87,000 might not be enough to cover something like that, but it's worth looking into.
Isn't that part of the position that we were talking about hiring someone for?
Yeah, so I think there was, yes, there sort of that job description or bullets listing there. It went from marketing to retail inventory and that kind of economic development work as well. So,
Right.
yeah. And to the back to the conversation about strategic planning, I look back at Councilmember Bliss, all that fits right within that economic development strategic goal that we're talking about. So in thinking about that, if that's a priority and a vision that you see, commercial real estate inventory or, creating destination retail, whatever those things may be, I certainly cannot obligate the city, but I think the council wants to hear that. Should that be the tactical goal that gets funding? The whole point of a strategic plan is to guide then the funding streams and the work of the city towards achieving those strategies, that are laid out in it. So.
Do we have a lot of empty spaces?
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
No,
No, it's extremely low. We're 97%, I think is the number that we've thrown out.
and the numbers that are empty is not for lack of people wanting to be in them.
Yeah.
We have some landlord issues, but also your biggest areas of emptiness are Yorkshire has some emptiness down on Watson, so it's not in the core of the commercial districts and such. Yeah.
But back to Bud, so it seems like the chamber's got a cohesive group of Webster business people in it, as well as these other groups. Is there a way that we can, if you're gonna do surveys or roundtables, it seems like perhaps there's a chance we could buddy up?
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. We're supposed to be buddied up now.
It doesn't feel like it. We always talk very separately,
We don't have a joint.
or you don't speak enough for me to become aware, so I don't know.
I think, well, what I was gonna say though, I probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bud, because I've been to some chamber events, but I feel like the chamber events, you have, active chamber members and then you have people just paying the bills. Same issue we have with, getting people involved. There's a lot of people who just won't get involved.
We
because they're
have,
busy
we
with
have about
business.
260 members, but only about 50 of them.
Ever show them.
Pretty active for events, yeah, which is still a good turnout.
But could they be useful for us, doing coffees or roundtables or, getting consumer feedback from business owners? Could your list help, could we work together on something like that?
And there is opportunity to do that. We have a monthly luncheon. It's always the fourth Thursday of the month. It may be in different venues. It is in different venues, in fact. But that's an opportunity to come and speak. And socialize with other members of the community that you don't even know really, that are business owners there.
Isn't there also a coffee?
Yeah.
There's a thing to say that to me would be that I believe Novel Neighbor is slated to host a coffee soon for the chamber. So there could be, like, that feels like a natural crossover of making that like a whole, I mean, plenty of room for everybody.
Yeah.
That typically attends if like we,
Once a month, we
Once
have
a-
a coffee connection with one of
That's
the
it.
businesses. It's 8 o'clock in the morning before the business opens, usually, for about an hour, socialize a little bit, look at business and buy stuff. If you're there.
Yeah.
You know, you could just easily greet people when they come to those coffees with a one-page survey with 3 or 4 questions on it, and every time they come, they're asked. This, fill it out, you know, and give it to us on the way out. It'd be a simple way to gather a
I'd be
conversation.
happy to do that if somebody writes out the question.
Somebody writes out the question.
I mean, yeah, so obviously the chamber is its own entity and we, you know, the city has not imposed on it. We are a member. I do think, you know, there are opportunities for that. I don't think the chamber is closed to it. We're big supporters of the chamber. I think also maybe, you know, there's a new director at the chamber. You know, obviously Bud and then a couple folks from here may want to just have that coffee together and flesh out what are the connective tissues we can grow between a membership organization and this commission really looking at how do we support the entirety of the business community? Because obviously ultimately chambers are member organizations at their core, right? And so,
Right.
and how do you, that can help the chamber as well, right? Folks that aren't members that, you know, may see good work. And
Yeah.
you see in other places where a lot of other cities that colleagues of mine work in, chamber becomes almost like the welcome wagon, even though they're not members, right? New business registers. The chamber is that sort of ambassador that, you know, brings the basket of goodies and information about, you know, when you're trying to figure out parking permits, here's where you go, and just sort of an ambassador role. It's a real potential possibility.
Well, I have looked at their roster. It's not a lot of retailers.
It's a lot of service.
It's a lot of service, which makes perfect sense for the networking piece of it. So we have to keep that in mind.
Sure.
But I still think from gathering information, it could be useful.
And you remember,
I'm not a member.
want to be a member?
No, thank you. Like, I'm in the retirement category.
But we also have to remember, this is 3 communities. This isn't just Webster.
That's true.
Right.
I mean, that's a huge part. He says 50 people are there, but if you divide that by 3, I mean, that's only a handful of Webster.
And most of them
people
might
there.
come from Shrewsbury.
Or Rockdale where they're located. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah,
No, we're located.
that's true.
where?
Up on Marshall.
You know,
Complex.
Oh, Rich Campus.
I didn't know that.
Well, but if you would
Yeah.
like to talk to your leadership and discuss what we've been discussing, I would appreciate that, or we would appreciate. that.
And I don't think it hurts, like, I mean, like you said,
Yeah.
as far as drafting some questions, I could, you know, if you think that we can get some feedback, like a coffee connections or
Our board
something.
meets on the second Thursday of the month. So I'll bring it up to the next meeting.
Okay,
Nice.
so just to be, but I don't want to commit, I'm not trying to get the city to get all free stuff. We obviously have sponsored, the city has sponsored chamber events before in order to reach the chamber members. We certainly can do that, but I think what we're hoping for is something we don't have to pay for all the time, but really that kind of connective tissue. But should we need, the city certainly can sponsor another luncheon or, you know, such like that, if that helps open the relationship up. Thank you.
All right, good deal. All right, let's move on to the new business. So report to the city council. No, we're changing the dates,
April 4th.
April 4th.
So just real quick, all boards and commissions have been asked to report to the council. So the chairs are putting together the 10 minutes, 3 slides type of presentation. So Mike, I have a template I'll send to you. So it's really up to you and the commission if you want to talk about it together, or if you're just going to put it together. But it's really that conversation of here's what we're doing, or the major challenges or issues we want to work on. Time for the council and such to interact. So it replaces sitting down and typing out a report. So.
Why don't we talk about it at, maybe at next meeting, because I don't think I'm gonna be at the March one.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's do that. Oh,
Okay.
get right. All right.
And just real quick, I
Yes.
know Eric, you were talking earlier. I don't know if you're there or on, but if you had something to say, I didn't want to, your audio cut out, so I didn't want to miss you. you had wisdom for us. Then look at me.
He's just very happy. over it.
That's right. That's it. Nice smile. So business district updates then. Tim, you want to give us the Old Webster one?
Old Webster, we really just started going over 2023 event planning, changes in dates and talk a little bit about overall last year and how that all went and what we want to go with.
Good deal. Do you sit on Crossroads? No.
I do not.
Okay.
I'm allowed to do both.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We have an opening there, so yes.
They have vacancy.
Yeah.
I didn't.
So
I
just-
talked to Julie from the frame shop. She kind of.
Yeah.
Updates.
So real quick update for Crossroads, obviously their streetscape project is their biggest event or program.
Yep.
This county has the grant. The county has agreed to have a member of Crossroads on their advisory team for picking the consultant. And then as we go through design and such, so the city has a commitment of funds to that project as well to redo the streetscape there. So Crossroads is the last of the three districts not to have, decorative light poles, things like that. Crossroads can't even use the poles that are there. They're county poles. You can't hang baskets, things like that. So that'll be, I think it's a 27 construction. That will involve a road diet. I'm going to talk about road diets for both districts. Big Bend will go down and remove from 2 lanes down to 1 lane through that whole area of Crossroads. And so it's 1 lane each way, past Schnucks, and then it expands back out. Going to see a road diet coming through there all the way through, almost over to Freddy's, right, where it goes back to, all the way to Freddy's, where it comes 1 lane. It's a county project. The state owns a piece of Big Bend as it crosses over 44, even though it's a county road. So it's multiple players and, figuring out traffic flows and some real interesting intersections that we've got there. So.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question? I remember having a conversation with Mr. Naring and saying, couldn't you maybe put lights over this area to designate it as a district? And that's when I learned about what you just said. Is there a way we can negotiate an
So,
opportunity? to
yeah,
use
so the
those poles?
streetscape, yes, the streets, those poles will all go in the streetscape. It's all new sidewalks. So the cities, the streetscape, when we mentioned streetscape, just like Old Webster, new sidewalks, new poles. And so we have not talked about the design of poles, but my hope would be the decorative antique ones that we have here in Old Webster, Old Orchard are all shorter poles, much lower, but there are decorative remasterings, but trying to look that are much higher. I see them in Collinsville, Illinois is really great. And so they are able to do signage between the light poles and cross over easier. We're at the mercy of Ameren for that. So all the banners, that's why the banner locations are what they are for over the street banners for events and such. We have to have an Ameren pole that's doable because the city hasn't put any poles in. We certainly could. And I've talked about that. Why don't we just drop some poles in ourselves and create some more spots if people want to? So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a block, but to have Edison lights or something that.
Make it a lot cuter.
It would make it cuter. It would designate it as a business district. It wouldn't be a lot of money, but I. was told
Put
that.
electricity in your poles and do.
So we are doing that in the city now. So Old Orchard,
Save yourself a lot of problems in the future.
going to Old Orchard, the new poles on their end of their streetscape, down by Novel Neighbor on that end that was just redone, do have electricity in the poles. Now the poles are the same model as we have here in Lockwood, much shorter. So it doesn't allow for but it allows for plugging in electrical Christmas fixtures, right? I mean, that we don't have.
That's all I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's all I'm talking about.
Yeah,
right there.
but
So-
for instance, if what I just suggested was to be realized, would it be the Crossroads district that has to advocate for it and politic for it and make it real? Or do we come to the city and say, we need help here, or how does that?
So
play?
it's both and. So the districts I want to be clear, the districts are not separate subdivisions. They are parts of the city under state law. So, the advisory commissions are just like your commission here. They ultimately city council decides that. So that's contemplated, that the concept of new poles and lights in the streetscape plan. Now, of course, that budget was written in 2018, by the time we 10 years later get to this happening, it's going to be more and we'll have to recalculate. But so that advocacy will be needed to make sure it gets done, but also, I would say that it's in the plan.
Yes, but you talk about different heights, and if the district said, oh my gosh, we need a way to segment ourselves out. Somebody needs to make
Sure.
sure they're not buying short stuff
Yeah.
that isn't gonna meet their purposes.
And that goes back to Crossroads is involved in that design process. So what does, the plans, if they want 25-foot poles or 40-foot poles, you know, the higher light poles and such, you know, we can easily figure that out. So, Old Orchard is undergoing quickly a road diet as well. So the county will be restriping Big Bend from Laclede all the way down to Gazebo Park and eliminating the 2 lanes going to north side. So from Laclede to Murdoch, which is where the veterinarian station is, parking on the north side only. 1 lane in each direction with a middle turn lane. So it's going to eliminate the 2 lanes of traffic direction and the parking, sometimes parking not other hours. This is really with pedestrian issues with Vulcan Treat Box and Frisco, the amount of speed that's being generated through that area was, you know.
Good idea.
And so,
Yeah.
and that will continue down to Gazebo Park. You know, because we've got 2 lanes there right in front of Weber's in the park, and there, you know, a right turn lane is being created rather than people trying to wing around and beat the lights and such. So I do expect great ideas. It's a county project. The county deals with it, takes care of it. I'm sure you will see somebody squawking about where did my passing lane go and such, or, you know, parking changes. So,
No
but
plan for repaving that.
they're not repaving at this time. It's a simple,
They're gonna stripe right.
they're gonna stripe right over. Yeah. You said it, bud.
That's an entrance to the city. That just bothers the hell out of me. That it's so raggedy.
Yeah.
And they've had 3 water main breaks down there in the last,
At least.
this winter alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Different
What
department.
do we have to do to get some attention on it?
Yeah.
It's a county conversation, so it's Councilwoman Clancy and those folks. Obviously, I think farther down has been with the streetscape, some of that paving, is paving done? I can't remember, but Missouri American Water, when they repave, they certainly have to repave to a certain standard, but it's, you know, it's always a question whether or not they
It's
get
to a
that.
certain standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other city updates?
I'm gonna turn to Councilwoman Bliss in just a second, but obviously I mentioned strategic planning. It's also budget season. So historically, you have not had a budget. A standalone budget is BDC, other than the marketing, which is in public affairs, which will continue, no problems. But if you do want to submit a budget request, we'll put that on your agenda next month. I do think, given where we're at, we would submit to at least have anything we don't spend in this ARP fund, you know, recommitted into that and rolled over and request that. But if there is another set of budget you want to request, we can talk about that and submit that request for you. So.
Okay.
And Councilwoman Bliss.
Hi. Yes, I want to kind of transitioning to budget. We did have heard a second quarterly report that Eric presented at the last council meeting, and there were some bright spots in there. Revenue from the use tax was higher than anticipated, so that has turned out to be a good thing. Recreation fees are also picking up again, so we are on the way of getting results from some of our decisions from the last budget season, which we can hopefully roll on into this next one. Strategic planning is taking place, and right now we've defined our mission, vision, and values. There's going to be a few little tweaks on that, but we are going to be talking about that at the next council meeting. And then the next phase would be to determine smaller goals or tactics that relate to each of those values. So that is, it's been a very good collaboration between all of us on council, and we're going to be incorporating the department heads as well in this next phase. Sustainability Commission is moving forward with implementing their strategic plan called Forever Webster Groves. And there are several initiatives that they're working on there, one of which is brand new, and we will be coming back to the BDC to see if you're interested in working on a Green Dining Alliance and implementing that, getting that going and having some discussions on how to incorporate green and sustainable practices with our food and entertainment here in Webster. And that is it.
All right.
Officer Razul, anything from Right. So in other words, what I hear is parking is an appropriate level of tickets and.
And could you help me understand what a green dining environment is?
Paper straws.
That's hard to say, paper straws. rather than
No.
just
It's
straws at home.
practices
Oh.
about what happens to the food waste, disposal of food, disposal of animal byproducts. Yes, and the way restaurants do practices for their serving or, you know, other stuff.
I don't know that.
The city.
Removal of oils.
I
Yes,
don't know that Webster is big enough, but we are a strong restaurant community, but you're seeing other cities move into food waste going into city-owned methane digesters and such like that to create
To
a,
feed
you know, to feed a
energy
power use
free,
and such
yeah.
like that. So again, that, I'm just giving you a sense of what you're seeing out of some of those movements.
and Brentwood has adopted this as well. They're part of the Green Dining Alliance, and they are just now, they kind of did it where the city committed to having this initiative within their city. It requires 25% of the restaurants and food places to participate. They started the initiative first, and now they are recruiting restaurants. And so it's a conversation that sustainability and hopefully you all will have together to decide the best way to study and get moving on that initiative.
Okay,
So Pam, I have a follow-up question. Are you talking about working with the Green Dining Alliance organization?
This is something that with the Sustainability Commission, they will be using those standards from the Green Dining Alliance and of course, to get hopefully membership there.
Okay, because we already have some restaurants that do that.
Yes, but
Okay.
there's a
So
25.
it's not different, it's not separate.
No, right, but
Okay.
there's a 25% requirement for the city of Webster Groves to be part of the alliance.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, our next meeting is February 23rd. I think we have some good items to talk about there.
We got a long agenda.
Yeah. I don't want to have any more agenda. Yeah.
Come by Zoom, come by Zoom.
Yeah.
No, I'll have to figure out the time change between, I'll be in Seattle, but
It'll be 6 a.m. for you.
Yeah, it's a little early. It's.
listen,
but nobody will be after you.
I am an early bird, I can make it.
Oh,
They got good coffee out there.
You don't have to like wake me up every so often.
I've been to the original Starbucks. I was there,
Really?
yeah, I was there
Yeah,
last
it's-
summer.
There a couple times.
Total side note, I have a friend who collects the Starbucks mugs. And
Yeah.
I thought I have a lot of coffee mugs just randomly. He has 3 whole rooms dedicated with shelves and libraries because, you know, they're on like, what, series 7?
Yeah.
You know, so, but every time we go to a city, oh, I don't have that one yet. I need like 6 of those. And then he
Yeah.
trades it. I got 5 of the new Indianapolis series 7s. I need, you know, New York. It's a whole,
It's a niche.
right.
I'm gonna tell my husband this next time he thinks I have too many books. I feel like it would be worse, like,
Well, let's go ahead and adjourn then. And, yeah, appreciate everybody.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Mike.